If your legs feel heavy by afternoon, your knees have been aching on easy days, and you can't get a full night's sleep no matter how tired you are, those three things might be connected, and the connection is probably not what you'd expect. I want to show you a quick test you can do right now, right where you're sitting, about 30 seconds. It'll tell you whether your veins are involved in what you've been feeling, because for a lot of people over 65, they are, and they have no idea. Most people think varicose veins are a cosmetic thing, the twisted bluish lines on the legs, maybe a little embarrassing in shorts, but not a real health issue, something you just live with. That is not the full picture, not even close. What's actually happening inside those veins, the mechanism behind them, is doing things to the rest of your body that nobody has explained to you, to your energy, to your sleep, to the aching in your legs that you've been calling joint pain for years. And once you understand what's actually going on, a lot of things start to make sense. So, the mechanism, the test, and what to do about it. Let's get into it. Your veins have valves, small one-way valves. Think of them like trapdoors that open to let blood flow up toward your heart and snap shut to stop it from falling back down. Every step you take, every time your calf muscle contracts, those valves are doing their job, pushing blood up, closing behind it. Here's what changes after 65. The walls of your veins are made of collagen and elastin, same proteins that keep your skin firm, your joints cushioned. And just like those tissues, vein walls weaken with age. The valves start to lose their snap. They don't close all the way. And when that happens, blood doesn't just stop. It falls back down and sits there, pooling in the lower legs. That pooled blood creates pressure. Venous hypertension, it's called. The vein walls stretch under that pressure, bulge outward, twist, and that's what you're seeing on the surface, the rope-like bluish lines. That's the visual sign of a valve system that's lost its grip. But the surface is the least important part of this. Underneath, that sustained pressure is triggering a chronic inflammatory response in the leg tissue. Your body recognizes the pooled blood and abnormal pressure as damage, and it sends in inflammatory signals to try to fix it. The problem is, there's nothing to fix. The valve failure doesn't heal on its own, so the inflammation just keeps running, low level, constant, in the background. And this is where it gets real. That same inflammatory pathway connects directly to the joint aching a lot of people over 65 chalk up to arthritis. When your legs are heavy and uncomfortable, you change how you move. Shorter steps, shifting weight off the sore side, avoiding bending the knee fully. You probably don't even notice you're doing it, but over months and years, those small compensations put abnormal stress on the knees, the hips, the lower back. The veins don't cause arthritis, but they quietly accelerate it. Vein-related pain and joint pain feel almost identical, same aching, same swelling, which is why so many people treat the wrong thing for years. The fatigue connection is more direct. Blood pooling in the legs means less blood efficiently returning to your heart and lungs. Your body compensates, works harder to move the same volume. That extra effort costs energy. It's one of the reasons afternoons feel heavier than mornings. It's also one of the reasons you wake up feeling tired even after a full night. The restlessness, the leg cramping at 2 a.m., the need to reposition constantly. That's venous pressure making comfortable sleep almost impossible. 3 separate problems, one underlying driver. There was a large study, population data on 5.8 million people. Varicose veins become twice as common after age 65. Twice. In a Budapest study specifically looking at the 71 to 80 age group, prevalence was over 82%. More than 4 out of 5 people in that age range. Most of them think it's cosmetic. Most of them haven't connected it to the other things they're feeling. This is the part that concerns me most. The Edinburgh Veins study tracked people with venous disease over 13 years. Nearly half deteriorated during that time. Almost 1 in 3 developed skin changes that put them at risk for leg ulcers, open wounds that don't heal. This isn't a stable condition. It progresses, quietly, and by the time most people take it seriously, they've lost years they're not getting back. So, The test. Stand up if you can, or note this for when you're done watching. Stand upright for about a minute. Let the blood settle. Look at your lower legs, your calves, behind the knees, down toward the ankles. Are there veins that are raised, bulging, rope-like under the skin? Press gently. Do they feel tense, a little firm? Now lie down flat. Give it 20 or 30 seconds. If those same veins soften, reduce, become less prominent, that's the tell. That's gravity-dependent pooling. That's a valve issue. That's what we're talking about. Raise your leg above the level of your heart. If the veins reduce further or disappear almost entirely, that confirms it. Varicose veins behave that way. Cysts, lipomas, other lumps don't. They stay the same no matter how you position your leg. This isn't a diagnosis, but it tells you something worth paying attention to. Your body already has a solution to this problem built in. It's called the calf muscle pump, and most people over 65 have accidentally turned it off. When you walk, when your calf muscle contracts and releases with each step, it squeezes the veins in your lower leg. That squeeze pushes blood upward, past the valves, back toward the heart. It's essentially a second pump, not as powerful as the heart, but critical. In a healthy, active person, the calf pump is doing this hundreds of times a day without them thinking about it. Think about what a typical day looks like after 65. Sit for breakfast, sit for the news, sit in the car, sit in a waiting room, come home, sit for lunch, sit in the afternoon, sit for dinner, maybe some walking in between. And if your legs are already heavy and uncomfortable, you move less, which makes the pooling worse, which makes the legs heavier, which makes you move even less. It's a loop, and most people are stuck in it without realizing it. Start with heel raises. At the kitchen counter, hold the edge for balance if you need to. Rise up onto the balls of your feet and lower back down slowly, 10 to 15 repetitions. The slow lowering is what matters most. That's the calf working against gravity on the way down, which generates the strongest pump action. 2 or 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, evening. When you're sitting, which for most people is most of the day, try ankle circles. Lift one foot slightly off the floor and rotate the ankle in full circles, 10 one way, 10 the other, then switch legs. It takes 90 seconds and keeps the smaller ankle muscles engaged, supporting venous return in the moments the calf isn't being used. And 10 minutes of walking after meals. Not exercise in the usual sense, just movement. The post-meal window is when circulation to the gut increases and the legs tend to lag. A short walk after eating keeps the calf pump active during exactly that window. This connects back to what we covered earlier. When blood is moving through the legs efficiently instead of pooling, the inflammatory load in the lower leg drops. That same inflammation that was feeding joint aching, disrupting sleep, draining energy, less of it. Not because you treated the joint or chased the energy problem in some other direction, because you addressed the driver, one pump, multiple problems. Let me correct something I implied there, because I don't want to leave the wrong impression. Reactivating the calf pump makes it sound like there's a switch you flip. There isn't. The vein system responds to regular, repeated activation, not occasional effort. 2 days of heel raises and then stopping accomplishes nothing. What we're talking about is a daily habit. The good news is that once it's a habit, it genuinely doesn't feel like effort anymore. There's a second piece to this, and this one has some of the strongest research behind any natural approach to varicose veins. Horse chestnut seed extract. Not the nut itself, the standardized extract, available as a capsule. The active compound, called aesin, works on the vein wall directly. It reduces how much fluid leaks out into the surrounding tissue. That's the swelling you feel in your ankles and calves by end of day. It also reduces inflammation in the vein tissue itself and appears to improve the tone of the vein wall, giving it more resistance against the pressure building inside. The research on this is solid. A Cochrane review, a systematic analysis pulling together 13 randomized controlled trials covering over 1,000 patients, plus 3 large observational studies with more than 10,000 people, found consistent improvement in leg pain, edema, and itching in people with chronic venous insufficiency. Not slightly, measurably, comparable to compression therapy in several of the trials. A separate review of 5 clinical studies found that 66% of treated legs showed a decrease in venous severity after just 6 weeks. 6 weeks. This is on Amazon. Typically $12 to $20 a month for a standardized capsule. Look for one that specifies ACEin content on the label. That's the active compound, and that's what the research used. One note that matters. Horse chestnut in raw, unprocessed form contains a compound that can be harmful. The supplement form is processed to remove it. Capsule, standardized extract only, not raw horse chestnuts. That distinction is important. The diet piece is quicker, but worth naming because it works through the same mechanism. Your vein walls need collagen. The same collagen breakdown driving the valve failure is worsened by chronic inflammation and nutrient gaps. Bioflavonoids, the compounds that give deeply colored plants their pigment, reduce inflammation in vein tissue and support the proteins that keep vein walls firm. Blueberries, blackberries, cherries, dark leafy greens, garlic, red onion, grocery store, whatever's in season. What to reduce? Processed sugar degrades collagen proteins at the structural level, quietly, over time. Excess sodium causes the fluid retention that increases the pressure your veins are already fighting. You don't have to eliminate either, but if your legs are heavy and your ankles are swollen by evening, those two things are making it worse every day. I want to say something now that I think about every time I cover this topic. Someone left a comment. They'd been dealing with heavy, aching legs for close to 8 years. Saw a doctor once, early on. Were told it was cosmetic. Told to try compression stockings if it bothered them. That was it. So they normalized it. Told themselves this was what getting older felt like. Stopped walking as much because the legs were uncomfortable. Stopped doing the garden on weekends because standing for an hour left them miserable for the rest of the day. Started taking the elevator instead of the stairs. Not because they couldn't manage the stairs, but because the legs would ache for the rest of the afternoon afterward, and it just wasn't worth it. 8 years of quietly shrinking their world. One small accommodation at a time. The retreats happen gradually enough that you don't notice them as a pattern. You just notice that your world got a little smaller this year than last year. The yard work that used to take a Saturday morning now takes all weekend because you have to stop and rest more. The grandchildren who used to climb on you on the floor, now you stay in the chair. Not because you decided to, just because getting back up afterward isn't worth it anymore. That's not aging, that's a vein problem that was never addressed. I'm not saying that to alarm you, I'm saying it because the intervention point matters. The earlier you start addressing venous pressure, the calf pump, the extract, the diet, the habits we're about to finish with, the more function you preserve, not recover. Preserve. It's about stopping the slow erosion before it takes more. The person in that comment started the extract, started doing heel raises 3 times a day, started walking after dinner. 3 months later, they wrote back. The legs were still there. The veins hadn't disappeared. But the heaviness was better. The afternoons were easier. They'd done the garden 2 weekends in a row. That's the goal. Not perfection, just getting some of it back. 2 more practical things. Compression socks. These get dismissed. People associate them with something frail or medically serious. But the mechanism is simple. Gentle graduated pressure, tighter at the ankle and gradually releasing up the calf, helps the vein walls resist the internal pressure that's causing the pooling. External support for a valve system that's lost some of its own. You don't need prescription stockings, the kind available on Amazon for $15 to $25. Moderate compression, firm but not tight, labeled for travel or mild vein support, is what most people with mild to moderate symptoms benefit from. Put them on in the morning before you stand up, before the blood has had a chance to pool. Take them off at night. If your ankles tend to swell by afternoon, try wearing them consistently for 2 weeks and pay attention. Most people feel the difference within days. The second thing you can do tonight, leg elevation. When you're sitting in the evening, watching television, reading, prop your legs up so your feet are level with or slightly above your hips. You don't need to be flat on your back with your legs up a wall, just elevated enough that gravity is working with you instead of against you. 20 to 30 minutes. Think back to the test, the veins that softened when you lay down flat. Elevation uses that same principle deliberately every evening. You're giving the venous system a daily recovery window. That matters more than most people realize. Here's what I want you to take from this. You're not dealing with three separate problems. You're dealing with one driver showing up in three places. Address the driver consistently and you'll likely see all three shift. The joint aching, the afternoon heaviness, the broken sleep. Not overnight, but consistently. So pick one thing, just one, the one that felt most relevant when you heard it. Heel raises while the kettle boils, the extract, elevation tonight, compression socks tomorrow. Start there. Be consistent for 2 weeks and pay attention to how your afternoons change. That's usually where people feel it first. A little less heaviness, a little more in the tank by 3 p.m. That's the signal. Keep going. If this gave you something useful, subscribe. I put out content like this regularly. Take care of yourself.